All right, looks like we're live this morning, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody doing for this first day of August? Hope it finds you doing well. You're really pulling some things up here, sharing the word, and we'll get started. There's your weather, which looks kind of like it's for the last couple of weeks. It's raining out ever in the east and dry out west. That seems to be a continuing theme that hasn't changed in quite some time. As we've all lamented on here many days, send us some rain. These forest fires, wildfires are definitely keeping people busy and seem to be getting out of control in some respects, which we'll hit up here shortly. All right, we got people in the side chat. We got M. Long joining us, Walter Davis, and Barry Wood. Good morning. Yeah. You just had that big storm hit you, Walter. It looks like there's a couple of big cells over Pennsylvania. Looks like a lot of fun. Or not. So that's the weather. Looks like a little bit of shower in the Rockies to a certain extent, but nothing out of control. All right, got my links saved up here. So you will find them in the bottom description box as normal per SOP. So going along with the weather story, following up on the fires going out here, we have that Northern California car fire. It's grown to like over 100,000 acres now. It's jumped the county line, it looks like, based on this headline. And some more video.
Emphasis on the Trinity County side of the car fire. Flames have reached over the county line. Firefighters say these flames have crept down the ridge and are finally down here to the road's edge where they let it burn. There are no structures here. They're content to fight it defensively. But that's not true just a few miles away from here.
They're afraid of the little town of Lewiston burn.
Ron Pearl, who retired to Lewiston from Livermore a few years back, is one of the Trinity County evacuees who check this map outside the local grocery store daily for updates on the fire. Updates he says he can't get from fire department websites.
As far as the updates on anything online, everything is from Shasta County, not from Trinity County.
I'm really scared. My house can burn.
The map has become kind of a town square for Lewiston folks to share what they know. And not far away, in the parking lot of a CVS pharmacy, a little enclave of travel trailers has sprung up, filled with people who had to flee Lewiston over the weekend and rough it.
No electricity, no showers, no nothing.
Late this afternoon, CAL FIRE and other emergency responders held a community meeting to update folks on the firefighting effort.
And I can tell you our number one priority, besides safety, is to get you home.
But there's no timetable for that, and weary firefighters are doing their best. But Edith and thousands like her have just one wish.
I just want to go home.
More than that, she wants a home to go home to.
All right, so that's that situation in northern state of Jefferson. Up to 112,000 acres, 30% contained, which is not good considering we're on week 3 of this, roughly 2.5 weeks, something like that. I think most of it was contained in that video. As far as the info on the rest of this article,
Mendocino and Lake counties are back home.
All right, let's hush up there. So that continues to get worse. We have this fire that started in Reno this weekend, or not in Reno, it's outside Pyramid Lake, but they have arrested a suspect on arson. And I was wanting to find out exactly what they were thinking he started it with. They says it's 40 arson charges. 34-year-old Radonsky, 2 counts of first-degree arson, 41 counts of third-degree arson. That fire is burning more than 47,000 acres. That's the one we talked about Monday. It's up. It's area just outside Pyramid Lake, between Pyramid Lake and Sparks. So they served a search warrant. They're saying more charges could be filed, but what is he charged with other than, well, I guess they charge with arson, but they don't mention how. 40 counts of arson, so that means it 40 individual acts. And what exactly were, I mean, I don't know if they could find 40 incendiary devices if you put them out there. That's just a weird number and a weird situation. What is that this, if this gentleman was out target shooting and they're basing it upon a number of pieces of brass found or something like that, if he was using incendiary rounds potentially, I mean, I guess he could have been using tannerite, and it is stupid enough to put that out there, maybe. But I don't think that would cause 4 charges. So I'm not sure how you get 40 charges for one fire. But anyway, I still haven't found any info on that. That's kind of, it's unusual for them to find a suspect that quickly without a real good lead tip. And 40 seems like a lot for basically it's one fire, unless he was driving the fire line or driving, throwing fire devices out of his vehicle at 40 different points. I don't know how they get 40 different charges, but anyway, that will continue to unfold, I'm sure. And there's more fires. New fire north of San Francisco. This is 180 miles north of San Francisco, town of Covello. What's our acreage burned here? So it's going to be stressing already thin resources. We talked about that super tanker that's flying. This fire has burned 117 square miles already. You guys with me? Not getting any comments out there in quite some time. So yeah, more fires up here, California in particular. It's just it's a bad summer. As bad as last year was, it seems like this summer's worse. Maybe it's just a relationship to towns makes it that much worse. Walter Davis pumping out your basement for your neighbors. Oh, I froze for a minute. That's not good. My end, I didn't show any change on my end. Interesting. It should tell me something like that, you would think. Yeah, it's not even showing any blips on the radar compared to the other day. I was offline almost half the stream, and now today I'm showing fine, and you're setting up. Can't get no worse than that. Well, I show myself is still here. You're still here. That's all that matters, right? Let me right. Okay. Hey, Barry. Yeah, Haze and Heat is what's there, right? Okay, we're gonna try to keep rolling then. I think we're still live. Okay. I guess if you guys are responding, that's all I need to know. We'll move on. Some movement over in Great Britain. This is a Zero Hedge. The Tommy Robinson jail sentencing, whatever. I guess there's bail in the works. It's like he's to be freed on bail after a court of appeal ordered that he should be retired for a contempt of court charge. He had been held at only prison after being jailed for 13 months following convictions for breaching reporting restrictions. After broadcasting footage of trial defenders on social media, we all saw that. So a different court, just a court of appeal, ordered his release. It looks like not the original judge that held him in contempt, essentially, for standing on a sidewalk. Court of Appeal on Wednesday, the Lord Chief Justice Lord Burnett of Malden upheld the conviction, but said there should be a retrial for the Leeds case. The Guardian reported. I guess the Leeds case is this one where he's outside the courtroom, separate, because that's where he was when he was arrested. So the release is on bail on condition that he attend the retrial before the Recorder of London at a date to be fixed. In the ruling, the Lord Chief Justice said the Leeds finding of contempt had been flawed. That court should not have proceeded immediately, be waited to hear the case on a fully informed basis. Because, yeah, if you remember the story, he basically was off the street and in jail in what, 8 hours? I mean, it was no time. He was in prison based on the contempt charge. Then they changed their mind in court. They called it something else, and it was a big hit piece. Basically, it's just like they're railroading people all over America. And this, I've been following that case of Bao down in Texas. It's the Just Us system is working just fine, right? He was ordered to stay at least 400 meters away from the Leeds Crown Court while on bail. Which London's a big city, or Leeds is probably a big area, so I guess it's not that hard to stay away as long as he doesn't live next to it, right? Outside the Royal Courts of Justice, supporters of Robinson and anti-racism protesters chanted rival slogans at each other. So Antifa showed up for a counter protest, it looks like. They were calling them Nazi scum. Say it loud, say it clear. Refugees are welcome here. Tommy doesn't have a problem with refugees. He has a problem with people raping little kids. Maybe they should get attuned to that. People want to ignore the situation and virtue signal on issues instead of dealing with the issues. Talking about the appeal, what the case kind of revolved around. The jailing judge, Judge Jeffrey Marson, told Robinson it was a serious aggravating feature that he was encouraging others to share his report and share it widely. He added, "Everyone understands the right to freedom of speech, but there are responsibilities and obligations. I am not sure you appreciate the potential consequence of what you have done. People have to understand that if they breach court orders, there will be very real consequences." Basically being the only one out on the sidewalk trying to get the word out situation. During a sentencing part of a hearing, they had already been convicted and they were going into sentencing. The judge made it sound like he was going to prejudice a jury or prejudice the rulings when that had already been handed down in the cases that he was covering that day. Under the cover of fair trials. So that's going on there. So Tommy Robinson should be out on bail. Probably some rally would be planned, I would think, at some point, based upon all the stuff we've seen over the last couple months. Obviously, to be far away from Leeds, probably. He doesn't seem to have excessive bail conditions like they did with they tried to do with Bow in Texas, where they tried to basically say you cannot have access to the internet, you cannot get around a computer, you cannot be around a recording device, you cannot walk within X number 100 yards of any court area within the whole state of Texas. It was fairly ridiculous. It was like being on house arrest, but worse. So we'll be following up on that situation and seeing how that develops. If anything, anybody is able to pick up the banner and move forward on covering those trials that are going on and whatnot. Hey, Mr. Tommy Boy Nines, good morning. Look like you Saudis are still getting lots of rain. Immigration without assimilation is called Asian. Indeed, Barry, it is in many different places. Definitely not just England. Yeah, it's raining there. It's always good to move in the rain. Covers your noise. You make less noise. It's all good. Backwoods Law, good morning. What's up? Speaking of the law, we're just covering judge ordering bail here over in the UK for that Tommy Robinson issue. All right, moving on to not the last thing. Next thing we had, this came across the Plus off of Bloomberg on how America uses its land, and it was caveated with there's a lot of maybe not deliberate misinformation, but it skews how you perceive this. So I thought I would be looking into it. It's got a lot of graphs, so it's a lot of visualized to it. So statistical measures show that how productive the U.S. is. It can be a lot harder to decide to use the land to create wealth. So here they have it broken down. It's interesting that they have pastureland, forest, cropland, special use, miscellaneous, urban, and then the 4 squares, 1 million acres. I found it interesting off the bat that they call range and pastureland together and then most of Nevada is all blanketed. And then they have special use over here, which essentially they should just say government lockdown land. It's lack of use, not special use. So there's some misnomers in kind of how this is perceived, but while yet forest is put out here like it's unused, when you have this whole section, the Blue Ridge and the Appalachians and everything is like, and all of Maine is like, it's all unused. I don't get it. But lockdown areas in blue in particular are mostly federally controlled reservations that they don't allow anybody to use it for anything. It's not a special use. It's no use, except for the privileged few, of course. But lots of little blue dots all over in this urban, and then it goes on down to show difference. But definitely misleading when you look at the desert Southwest, and this is all considered pasture and range. While we do have lots of open range, well, it would be open range if it wasn't for the BLM. For one, this area is not all used for pasture, that's for sure, because they've restricted so much use and so on. But who did this graph? So it's by David Merrill and Lauren Leatherby. Now, are they Bloomberg statisticians or something, or I'm not sure where they hail from, because it looks like this would be some type of university study or something like that. So I guess the division of these point uses of land are by the Department of Agriculture stats and the way they separate different land uses. So this is to get a general sense of how the land is used. So moving on, they have several different categories where they just break it down as to show as a percentage, not necessarily areas. Like here, it talks about cropland is about a little bit more than a fifth of the 48 states. If you divided it up, pasture and rangeland would cover most of the western U.S., and the cities and towns would fit neatly in the Northeast. Well, if we could move all the cities to the Northeast, I think I'd be a lot happier. Could we all agree on that? That would be nice. Moving on, they have these all the urban areas in the red, just 3.6% of the total size of the 48 states. And they fit up into the Northeast like they mentioned. The U.S. is becoming more urban at an average rate of about 1 million additional acres a year. That's the equivalent of adding a new urban area the size of Los Angeles, Houston, and Phoenix combined. U.S. urban areas have more than quadrupled since 1945. At what cost? This is probably our biggest problem. USDA categorizes national parks, wildlife areas. So these are all the blue areas. National parks, wildlife areas, highways, roadways, military bases, special use areas, and other USDA land classification miscellaneous. Cemeteries, golf courses, marshes, deserts, and other areas of low economic value, which are actually some of your highest areas of economic value in some respects. Depends on what's under the ground. But they just won't get out of the way. There's the breakdown size-wise: 64.4 million acres of wilderness areas, 8 million acres of farmsteads, 29 million acres of national parks, 15.3 million acres of state parks, 25 million acres of defense, which is unusually low. I'm not sure. Well, I think maybe some of that has to do with conjoined areas to DoD facilities that are special use potentially, and they get to fence off, but they're not classified as technically federal reservations. More than 100 million acres of special use areas are park and wilderness, where most commercial activities such as logging, mining, and grazing are excluded. 100 million acres worth. Yeah. 100 million acres of special use areas or park and wilderness areas. There's that breakdown. It's probably more, oh, this is the agriculture in the brown here. It's scrolling. Updated look. This is behind a little bit. So agriculture is about a fifth, taking up that section of the economy. So this is pretty good breakdown. That's just interesting. And I was looking at that first graph in particular. The way they showed the breakdown of pasture and range just seems kind of slightly skewed. And then when you have the special use category, the way they block out use, really in a lot of respects, not special use, no use in a lot of respects. Especially if we're talking about economics and how we use our land. I think you could say we don't use a lot of that, especially in Nevada. We're not allowed to. So that was an interesting graphic to check out. Again, that's in your links below if you wanted to delve into it a little bit further. Did it ever say who they worked or who they did their research stats for or why? Is this Bloomberg, some Bloomberg reporter decided to take it upon themselves to break down the country? They're different sources, but it doesn't say anything about those two individuals. So maybe they're just reporters. It doesn't say it was a report released. So these two individuals, I guess, just created it for their own, for Bloomberg just to enjoy, I guess. What's going on in the side chat? Tommy Boy splitting wood in the rain, sounds like. It's a good way to keep in shape, Tommy Boy, splitting wood, no doubt. Yeah, backwoods. I got around to it eventually. Yeah, BLM maps culture. That's the category at least they're using. Contaminated industrial sites. Yeah, they didn't mention much about that. I didn't see a special. I'm pretty sure that would go in a special category, though. All right, moving on to a concerning article that I saw on the links this morning, and this is in Mule Team's territory out there. Feds raid a property tied to a military surplus built business near Vandalia. And I think it's in Illinois, but this is reported out of St. Louis. It's right there in southern Illinois, I guess. Just after 5 a.m., agents stormed a property where 82-year-old Fayette County man runs a military surplus business. Federal agents, it's interesting how they described this. Federal agents arrived in military vehicles. So that tells you they brought MRAPs. Even though they shouldn't be military, right? They should be a three-letter agency of some sort, which I guess you could technically say is the other standing army that people won't recognize. But it's interesting how our verbiage catches up to us eventually. Flatbeds and cranes. And there was a picture I saw, I thought, where it had like sea containers that they probably were trying to take off the property. But anyway, maybe we'll see some picture in a little bit. They were looking through storage containers and seizing boxes inside. At one point, agents picked up an entire storage container with a crane. There you go, and loaded on a flatbed truck. Agents from the U.S. Department of DHS, FBI, ATF were on hand, and the Illinois State Police providing support, or what I would call cover. And of course, the local sheriff was nowhere near to be found, as they've been overruled. He's never sold any ammunition or guns, apparently. He sells military surplus ranging from uniforms, contains rummage sales, and online to a business called Wildlands Outdoor Equipment. The grandson said they're not selling guns, but reported that here's a key to tip off here. Grandson said they're not selling guns, but reported that 2 men recently knocked on the door asking if they had gun parts or body armor. The gentleman said no and showed them inside a storage container. But now they're wondering if there's a connection. You think there's a connection between those 2 men in this raid? So the feds, on suspicion of whatever, making something up, sent 2 people to try to get some info. So this is over body armor or gun parts, one or the other, that it looks like weren't sold, but some rookie agent went in there to the storage container and saw something and got a warrant based on that. Make a bet. U.S. Attorney Office had no comment about the raid investigation, and the news is not smart enough to ask about what's on the warrant or anything else. Another fine spending of your tax dollars raiding a good American business. So I guess the question would be, is body armor illegal? Last time I checked, it wasn't. Gun parts aren't illegal unless they saw some form of lower receiver parts or something. Even though you had never sold gun parts in the past, it doesn't sound like. I think the only concern I would have is that potentially he got hoodwinked by somebody else because it is surplus, that he could have had some stolen body armor from somewhere. Somebody from the military, some stolen plates or something. Maybe a large stash of flak jackets or plates had been stolen, and he got a hold of them somehow through some nefarious source, and he thought he was buying from something legit. He could have got caught up in something like that, or set up. The feds are infamous for setting up people and creating their own problems. But that is interesting when you have something that large of an operation for an old man like that. Undisturbing. So I guess we'll have to, I don't know if we'll be able to follow up on this. We'll have to try to keep a link out there. I have to get a hold of Mule Team, see what he knows, that if he knows anything about this, and what the situation could be, because that's concerning when you've got a guy that 82 years old. There's no reason to think that he's all of a sudden went rogue and is selling all these black market parts or something under the radar. But he could have got set up pretty easily, I would think. Yeah, Davis is dangerous. Booney had some backpacks. Yeah, even more dangerous is the body armor that actually protects people from their nefarious intentions. Backwoods Law. Yeah, all they want to do is sweat in front. All they have to do is sweat in front of a judge, and they whatever they want. I don't even think they sweat. They just kind of, this judge just, I'll swear. All they have to do is swear in front of a judge. I don't even know if they have to do that. They just tell the judge what they want, and they get it usually. It starts with a hat, then jump boots, then camo clothes, then taking the ATF. Remove the clothes and the problem won't happen. Okay, Walter, yeah. If that's the case, I'm way down that road. Yeah, if clothes were only the problem, right? Right. All right, folks, that's kind of rundown. That's the links again in the below if you want to look into anything. Obviously, the fires are close to home here. We're tracking on them, and we keep getting this smoke. The Yosemite fire's not getting any better either, apparently, and there's one up just north of us here outside Reno, and it's like another different situation every day. See what the weather brings to hopefully clear some of this smoke out. It's starting to really get its effects the way it's been inundated for continuously now for about 4 or 5 days. You the eyes and throat and everything are just kind of a little bit irritated every day now. So thanks for joining us for your 1st of August rundown. More we will follow up on throughout the week. See you out on the interwebs. Y'all be safe out there. Live free.